So a couple of minor things. One eye is a little bit too small, so it's this eye. I'm just going to enlarge it and just show you. The one in the distance looks a little bit larger. Oh, that's too much. Stupid liquify. And I'm just going to align it back. Okay, and this eyebrow, the way you draw eyebrows is very asymmetrical. All you have to do is just look at the density of one eyebrow according to where it is with the eye that it's above. So if you look at each eyebrow and just take a look at its relation to the eye, you'll know how to make it symmetrical on the other side. So over at this stage, this eyebrow is an outline, so we're going to have to fix the color. And going above the middle of the eye, it's somewhere over here. Just try to imagine the horizontal lines, and they'll guide you around the proportions a lot easier. Please don't forget to measure your paintings. It's really important that you measure them, okay? I say okay like you're all going to say okay. Okay, so there's the little corner of the eyes. Right here. Just tucking that in because there is a certain amount of fat on the inner eye. The eye doesn't completely reshape it. Just like so. I'm just trying to do it perfectly. Alright, and then the nose, nostril, seems to be moving away from the eye, the vertical line that cuts across the face. So I'm just pushing that back up, moving it around, pushing the nose back up, and aligning the lips. So you have a lot of alignment problems, which is kind of sort of, I think it happens because you don't measure the face. You go straight in and draw an eye, or you sketch it and then you forget to check by flipping the canvas horizontally. There has to be a way for you to break out of your tunnel vision, Jacob, because if you don't, you'll always have these mistakes. Before, after. These are all measurement issues, slight little issues that are not allowing your image to really excel to the level of realism you might want. Also, I'm not sure if it's finished or not, but please get rid of your lines if you're not using them. Meaning, if you don't need them anymore and you have a good sort of relationship happening between highlights and midtones and shadows, you don't need your lines anymore. Lines are stamps, representatives of edges. They are pointers, they are not the thing itself. They are illusions, a projection of the thing. It is not the real thing. If you want to create something that looks realistic, you can't do it with lines, because lines don't, they don't explain the relationship of light with the edge and the matter and the opaqueness of the object and the mass and the weight. They're just stamps, silhouettes of the edges. As for the shoulders, as for general proportions, her head size seems a bit small for her body. Of course I can't just ruin her head size, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shrink her body, because her shoulders are very wide compared to her head. They seem very feminine. They seem very masculine, and what I want to do is just make them a little bit more feminine. So please use measurements. Actually, just get a ruler. Get a ruler and start measuring. Get that stuff out of the way, because you're just going to have to deal with it later if you don't deal with it now. And later you'll have 50 hours or 10 hours or however many hours you have onto your painting, and you're going to have a hard time painting over what you've already painted. All that stuff, all that detail. You don't want to undo all of that. And don't depend on Liquify to fix your problems for you. I use Liquify for critiquing, and I use Liquify when I paint when I don't measure. There were so many problems in that recent painting that I did because I just didn't measure. If you don't measure, you guys will have a hard time later with, and you're just going to depend too much on Liquify. What are you going to do when you draw traditionally, when you sketch traditionally? Are you going to keep depending on the Liquify, so you're just going to have to scan your image and then liquefy it? It's really important to just measure. Take that extra minute or two just to organize the features and the sizes of the features. No, I can't touch that because there's a circle there. Also, the breasts, they are not part of the 3/4 view. This breast seems larger than this breast. So what I'm going to do is just shrink one, because small boobs are awesome, and then enlarge the other just a little bit and raise it up above. So this one was low, just like here. So if you were to look at her face front, her boobs, one would be really high, one would be really low, as if she has a bra only on one side. You don't want to do that. There is a bit of a slant when you have a three-quarter view of a body. So remember, a body also has its own unique placement when it's in a three-quarter view, just like a face, and you have to learn those little rules. Okay. Also, the size of the head is a bit too round, very 60s. What I want to do is just tighten the hair around the skeleton just a little bit, not make it look so round, because the skull is a bit geometric. Just pushing her hair in just a little bit, making it feel like it's actually falling on her body. I'm going to raise her hairline just a little because hairlines are a bit higher for females. So this area I'm just going to raise it up so she has a bit more of a forehead. And I am going to make the top of the head a little flat. Just like this. And a little squared off. What you had before was a little too round. So now the shoulders seem a little bit more aligned. They seem to make sense a little bit more. We're following actual horizontal lines. So this is all planning. This is all in the sketch phase. You can get rid of all of this mess in the sketch. Early on, when you can erase, when you have rough pencils that you don't value too much. So I'm going to show you the before and after. Before, the head was very, very round and very large. The face was very small in comparison to the head. The shoulders were unaligned, meaning they weren't proportional to each other. And then there is the breasts. They weren't proportional, meaning they weren't symmetrical if you were to draw a symmetry line. And the one eye was too small. And I fixed all of that and sort of pushed it back into place. Still the same character, it's just she's a little bit less sort of difficult to, sometimes there are little things that an artist does that are difficult to look over. And the size of the head and unaligned breasts are sort of like a sore thumb. So she's a little bit more balanced. Looks a little bit more easy on the eyes. Good job all around. Make sure that composition-wise you're not overfilling this area and this area's got nothing in it. You might want to throw a shadow, darken this area because you've lit it up. So when you light something up, you're like, okay, when you light up a stage and the stage is empty, what's the point? You light it up for a reason because you want someone to look at it. So please make sure that you guys are lighting, if you're not going to use this area, darken it up. So let me get a brush. Okay. Multiply. Just darkening up these areas that you're not using. If you don't use it, don't abuse it. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with a rhyme that you guys can remember. Probably something across like that, and then I'll get my eraser, sort of clean it up. Please get rid of your lines, you don't need them. And now that you have one side that's a little bit darker, you can really accelerate the secondary light source over here to be a bit more bright, because it's a bit faded off. So let me get that. Okay. Actually, you know what? I will just use dodge tool because I don't have time to stroke every single little one. So I'm just getting dodge tool and enhancing the secondary light source that's coming out of this little glowy tool. Okay. Just like that. You might want to rethink the whole color. So some of the colors aren't matching. If she is wearing some sort of nylon or some sort of spandex, what will happen is the color will, the white color of that spandex will change to the color of the light source that is most dominant in the area. So what I'm going to do is throw some blue over that shirt, because it'll just reflect the area around it. Also, eyes are very watery, and so you need a little bit of blue because they are reflecting the secondary light source as well. As for the eyes, seem a bit empty for me. Like I feel like you have a lot of opportunity to really enhance the eyes, bring in some more highlights, or there are so many things that you can do to the eyes. Maybe I should cover it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some liquid into the eyes, meaning I'm just going to create that effect that water has on watery eyes, and on sort of the rest of the anatomy of the eye. I'm just going to shade it in a way that sort of enhances it. Bring in a pure black. Not in its entirety. I am working with low opacity. So shading the top half of the eye and then bringing in the color that you want. So it was like an orange. And then shading around it. Make sure you're not, like, if you want to draw eyes that are believable, make sure you're not drawing like this kind of eye pupil. Make sure it's circular eye pupil, just like this. So this pupil here was a bit slanted. You don't want to do that. You want to keep it circular. You've got a bit of a lazy eye happening. I'm not sure if that was intentional. On the bottom lid. And then the upper lid here is illuminated, and it's not illuminated here. It would catch some light. I think she's wearing makeup. Makeup does reflect a little bit more. It's very reflective, especially the one on the upper eyelid. Women usually wear makeup like that. I'm going to desaturate the shadows because shadows are cooler. Your shadows are a little bit warm. Just going to desaturate those, and you're a bit saturated around the face. It's not yellow enough. Her face is extremely pink. So I'm just going to bring in a very yellow skin tone. And just brush it over to bring in some warmth. If you do want to use a blush, don't use a blush that comes out of the skin tone that you chose. Choose a blush that comes out of a completely different palette. Not completely different, it still has to match, of course. It's still red pulling out of the red and the beige, but make it seem like it's an area specific or makeup specific color. So just here we would see the pinks. Instead of seeing it all over the face, we just see it in that one area. And then seeing it on the lips and on the tip of the nose. Before it was sort of everywhere. Very, very pink, where now it's a bit more beige. And the pinks are now only where they are needed. I'm kind of tempted to make her eyes blue because of the blues around. They'll just look so pretty. So pretty. Can I do it? I'm just gonna do it. I'm sorry. You should learn some makeup, you guys. You should get on some YouTube videos and just look at makeup. It's really, really helpful. You have no idea. It's I can't even explain where I'd be right now if it wasn't for makeup. Like I don't know. I studied makeup and I did makeup for a while, and it sort of changed the way I look at faces completely. There's so much that we credit to makeup. There's so many false shadows that come out of our studies. A face has zero makeup on it is really unappealing, and not unappealing like in a bad way. It's just like it doesn't work in art as well as a face with makeup on. Most of the stuff that you guys look at has makeup in it, you're just not seeing it, and to be able to see it is really, really important. So the top part of her cheekbone, the shadow there, is going to be lighter because it's facing up against the light, and as soon as it starts moving down, over here the shadow as well, and over here. And then she's got a bit of a hooded eye, so it's going to catch some light like this, and then the eyebrow. The eyebrows need to match. Make your eyebrows match, Jacob. Okay, so I'm just going to flip the canvas and do a little bit of editing. So if there's a shadow under this eyebrow, there's going to be a shadow under this eyebrow. There's no reason that this eyebrow doesn't have a shadow on it. The light is coming from a consistent location. Also, the nose shadow will stretch across the cheek, just like this. And then the area under this cheek right here will get a little bit more shadow to it, just like this. And then the chin will have a shadow above it, and then you've got the light of the chin, so a lip shadow is needed there. Good job on avoiding the little swivel that happens in the lips. Also, don't make the lips aren't that reflective. They only have some of the secondary light source on them. It's not an actual discoloration. So just a little bit on the lips will do the job. Don't overdo it. A little bit of a lip corner here. Lip corner here. Make sure the lips match. Throwing in a bit of a cupid's bow. Shadow under the nostril, just like this. Okay. And then something to separate this skin from the skin of the eyes. Flipping the canvas back. Casting a larger shadow from the eyeball on the rest of the face, just like this. Will really enhance the believability of that eye. And I know you're pulling out of sort of an anime influence. Still, try to push your images as far as they can go. Okay. So just editing, flipping the canvas horizontally. And the eyes are not aligned, so I'm just going to jump into liquify now and realign them. Just like so. So just pushing one eye down and then pushing down the eyebrow adjacent to it. Pushing in this lip. And this bottom lip seems to have a bulge to it. So you've literally outlined this bottom lip. You really don't need to outline it. You need to just bring down its value a touch and then try to merge it with the skin around. You really don't need to outline that lip. If it does have lipstick on it, it looks like it's outlined because you use too much highlight in that one area. So what you do, if you do want to highlight, don't put highlight everywhere, just put it on one spot. Just like this, it'll be a lot cleaner looking. I just use dodge tool. Sorry, it does saturate and raise the value. So I'm going to bring in more of a pink, girly pink kind of pink for the makeup. So a bit of a hot pink. And I'm also going to use that same pink on the inner waterline over here to unify the palette a little bit. Kind of messed up my life right there. Okay, save, cancel, wait. Alright, so before, Sorry I made the eyes blue. I just like blue eyes. Sorry. I like painting blue eyes. After I realigned the face, brought in a different palette, brought down the pink of the face, which was way too saturated. The skull, I sort of made it a little bit less round, and I brought in some more believable tones for the skin. I recommend looking up a good reference for the eyes before you try them out. Okay. Before, after, the breasts are a little bit more aligned, and I have made the color of her shirt blue so that it matches and it's reflecting the blue of that light source color, that secondary light source. Okay, merging that down, and I'll send this back to you. This Daenerys painting, couple of issues. If we're looking up at her head, then we would see the sort of roundness. Also, you've really overdone the corners of the lips. I'm not sure if Space is with us today, but maybe he might catch it later. You really don't need to oversize those corners. It's just too much. Align the nose and then align the lips. I mean the eyes. Don't leave that little cartoon tail on either side of the lip if you don't need it. She kind of looks like she just sighed, like, will he ever call me? Or, will I ever be a queen? Instead, try to give her a bit of a more powerful expression. So, before, after, the lip size was way too big. It really was pulling out of that ogre thing. And you do that a lot, so avoid that as much as possible. Try to get a consistent shadow moving across the face. And don't work with such light lights. You really don't need anything to be that light. So I'm just going to bring those lights down. And just paint the white where I need it. So cheekbones, nose tip, milk mustache, and chin. And I recommend using a different brush entirely as well. So I'll save this. Your brush was a bit too textured. For this piece, if you look at this image, you'll see a cube on the original image mode. Okay, so you'll see like there is this symmetry line that stretches across here and then just moves across the face, just like this. Is that symmetry line? Okay. This symmetry line over here has horizontal lines that guide you around the location of the features. So over here we see a very, very straight angle for all of the features and the way they are sort of aligned across this cube, meaning the cube is existing just along here. No, I can't really because I have to wrap it around it. Basically, it's like a cube. Okay? So when you're reproducing it, you cannot reproduce what you see here without reproducing the measurements as well. So please measure. Identify that middle line and then find the horizontal and vertical lines. They'll help you create landmarks so that when you do go back into the rendering and you jump in and start throwing in some darks for the eye sockets, you're going to do it with confidence, and again, you don't have to fix it later when you've already done so much detail. So get rid of it early on in the rough stage. Measure, please. It's very obvious when you guys don't measure. It's the easiest thing to do. Don't be lazy and just measure. For this one, this is a very nice stance. Couple of issues that I see. Again, it's not finished, so I'm not going to be too picky about it. But I do see this aligned, like an unaligned leg with the rest of the body. And the foot doesn't really look like it's sitting on the ground or standing on the ground. So this leg would look more comfortable here instead of being completely dislocated. Oops. Just like this. Okay, so just have to flip the canvas a little. Yeah, it wasn't low enough. I want to match the heels, not the tip of the feet. I want to match the heels. And so this leg wasn't low enough, and it was too far out. Flipping the canvas really helps me find where everything should go. That looks just about right. Okay. Let me just correct it. Do some sewing. Okay, so do you see, Christy? Just like this. So I'll show you before. See where that leg was? I think the reason why you were confused about the leg is because the shield was there, sort of not letting you find exactly where the other hip is. So let me do the way where I can edit it. Okay. So before, the other hip would have been out here, and then the crotch would have been here. So this extra little pull of the triangle is asymmetrical, meaning that if we looked at his legs from the front, one hip would be out here and one hip would be over here, and then he'd have a really fat one leg and a really skinny one leg if we were to look at him from the front. So if you do want to make it like his leg is pushed out a little bit more, you're going to have to do it in a way where the other leg is also doing the same, because if it was just one leg pushing out, it would be up in the air. It'd be like he's doing, you know, like la 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 la. It'd be like he was doing like a swingy leg, like he was swinging his leg and the other leg had to stay in place. But if you do want to make it so that he is sort of pushing, I'm sorry, I had to do that dumb song. If you do want to make it so that he is pushing, like he's like standing with both legs spread, you're going to have to do it in a way where both legs are equally symmetrically spread, and that you don't undo the anatomy just so that one leg looks like it's a little bit pushed out. So that's where that was. As for the pose entirely, it was a little bit slanted. I would sort of fix it. So before, after, he wasn't really standing straight. He was like falling back a little bit. And then everything else seems okay. It looks like a good stance. And this white, get rid of this white. You never need this white. Please, for the love of God Almighty, do never use that white. The lightest you can possibly go. The lightest you can possibly go is like this. Okay, where you had before was probably up here. Please never, ever, 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 ever use this white. Ever. It's the worst thing you can do to your painting. As for laying down the actual colors, I recommend laying down a gray, a deeper gray. Darken. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No. Okay. Darken. Alright. What I recommend you do is just make everything grayed out. Don't put any whites. Start everything at a darker gray and then work your way up. because that way you're using light only when you need to, because if you start too light too early, you're going to end up hitting that evil white color I just showed you guys. And not a good idea. Okay. Probably going to start coughing and sneezing in a second. It just comes randomly. Excuse me. I probably should edit those out. Oh my god, I think I'm going to collapse. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically it. Sorry, I zoned out. That's basically it. Just don't go too light too soon. Keep yourself at a low value. This is like as high as you can go, and you don't even need to be that high. Okay. I'm gonna close this. Wait, cancel. Excuse me. Excuse me 1 second, please. Okay. Great tip. I always have trouble placing legs. It's awesome that a simple adjustment like that does wonders. Yeah. Just measuring. That's all it is, you guys. It's just measurement. If you guys do a... she did. If you guys measure, then you'll avoid all of those over editing that you might be you might find yourself into. So imagine you didn't get a critique today, Christy, and was it Christie's or was it Galaxy's? And you were rendering, and you rendered and rendered and rendered, and then you were almost done, and then you go back and realize that there is a big problem with the symmetry of the hips. I mean, that's going to show, and it's going to be harder to clean that up, and it's going to be harder to adjust those mistakes because you've already have so much detail you have to work around. So you're going to have to do a lot of Photoshop editing and a lot of lassoing and a lot of layers, and might as well just get rid of all of that early on and sort of get all that measurement out of the way so you can just have fun and with a peace of mind detail it to your heart's content. Okay, it's 5:37, so it only lasted like 40 minutes. Not even less than that. Wow. Yeah, so get those details out of the way early on. This is working from a reference, but I'm afraid I cannot work with that reference right now because it's really deviated from what the reference is. So this is what the reference is, and this is where your image is. So you've brought in your own style. I think you've drawn in some of your own facial features because it kind of looks like you. She looks completely different. Her eyes and her measurements are very different from this girl's. So I'm not going to be showing you how to make it look like her. A photo study is an attempt to have an exact replica of the photo, but this is not what this is doing. So I'm just going to critique this as if it is just some quick adjustments. So the highlights around each cheek, a little bit of trouble. The neck looks a little bit masculine and the chin looks a little bit masculine. And that's pretty much it, really. Try to unify the hair value with the background. So don't go with that harsh an edge. Also, the hair is a bit too dark. Even if you're doing a brown, you still haven't brought in sort of the dark only where you need it. If you look at a brown color, the value isn't really that dark. It's only dark in those really, really dark spots. Like over here, and over here, and over here. Instead of making the whole place dark, you actually look like you'll have some bounce to the hair. You don't have enough of a shadow. She looks like she's tucking her neck, her chin into her neck. You don't have enough of a shadow underneath that chin to make it seem like she is, that collarbone is too strong too. To make it seem like she's actually just resting her head normally on her neck. Okay, so try to do separate hair studies that are separate from the rest of the body. So the outer edges of the face, get a little bit of shadow if there's that much hair surrounding it. The top of the cheekbones, over here, and the chin. and underneath the eyebrow on the rest of the eyes. Just like this. They all have those little shadows on them. Also, you've used the hair to outline her cheekbones, making her cheekbones look really, really big. So don't use the hair to outline cheekbones. Just let the hair fall however it wants to fall, and the cheekbones will sort of have their own shadows. Just like this. I'm sorry about the mess. I sort of am running out of time. Just like that. Instead of having the hair outline where the cheekbones are. And finally, the lips are way too wide. Again, that's something that you pulled from the reference. If you're not going to follow the reference exactly, sort of, in the measurements, don't follow them, because they're going to follow one measurement from the reference and then you're going to not follow the rest of the measurements. It's going to make it look really uncanny. So don't do that. If you're not going to follow all the measurements, don't follow them. Just be inspired by the shape and look of the face. The eyebrows are too far apart. The lips are not, the eyes are not slanted, excuse me. Okay. Then you've got like discoloration here. So just a quick critique. Before, there was no neck shadow, chin shadow on the neck. The hair was outlining the cheekbones, and I sort of pushed that all away and just brought back some basic shades. Just like that. The lip, it was large and wide, so just brought that down. Just if you do want to make her smile, you just have to realign, reshape the lip. You don't have to widen the lip more than you have to, because then it would seem like her actual lip hole is really, really large. Just like this. Okay, thanks everyone, and bye-bye.